It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and today, folks, I have a great guest, and his name is Daniel Hintz. And Daniel, did I say that right?
You did say that correctly.
Okay, perfect.
Well
All right,
done,
good.
well
So, we'll let that roll. And everybody knows I pronounced Daniel's name properly. But Mr. Hintz has been kind enough to meet with me up here in the great city of Bentonville, and we're actually outside of the Bike Rack Brewing Company on A Street.
That's correct. Yeah, their original location.
Yeah, the original location, and there's actually so much going on around here. And I was telling Daniel that I've driven up and down this road before, and I actually thought it was a bike store because it's across the street from Gearhead, which is a sports and bike place here in Northwest Arkansas, but they're actually a brewing and coffee place, and I can't think of two better things to put together but beer and coffee.
Great inventions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but Daniel, I really appreciate you joining us today on the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. It's you have been doing quite a bit in this area of Northwest Arkansas. I believe you're originally from Milwaukee, and you've been here since 03, 04. Give us just a little bit of the background of your superhero origin story, as I like to say, and share with the audience a little bit about yourself as we move in and discuss a little bit more about what you're doing here.
Right. Well, my wife and I were in Seattle.
Okay.
We were looking for a move. Seattle was just sort of becoming almost unattainable from a pricing perspective. I was doing marketing and communications on a national level. My wife was working at the Seattle Children's Theater, and she really wanted to start her own theater company. And so my mom was living in Eureka Springs at the time, and she had said, hey, check out Northwest Arkansas. We had to do what many people did. We had to look at Arkansas on the map of the United States and go, oh, yeah, that's where Arkansas is. There really had never been a consideration we had looked at the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Chicago, potentially going back to Milwaukee, those type of things, which are pretty standard. And so we decided to take a chance. Yeah. So we moved to Northwest Arkansas in 2003, 2004. And Cassie Imashevich, my wife, started working at the Walton Arts Center, and I was bopping back and forth trying to figure out what I wanted to do for a living, and I ended up getting hired by the city to help produce an event quickly because they only had 3 weeks left to produce this event. So I did that, and with that kind of became a pipeline of relationships with the city, and they started talking about the Downtown Master Plan, which was done by Dover Cole. Simultaneously, my wife and I met Bob Ford, Amy Herzberg, Dave Pickens, Mike Thomas, Julie Gable, quite a few people in the theater scene. And using that platform and those relationships, we all started sitting around the various dinner tables, both celebrating the history of the performing arts in Fayetteville, but also lamenting at the lack of professional opportunities. And so out of those conversations was sort of birthed the idea of Theater Squared.
Okay.
And so with that, Cassie's and Bob and Amy and the rest of the team sort of helped found Theater Squared, and I started working as the executive director for Fayetteville Downtown Partners.
Okay.
So really, that's how this whole thing started. Was out of that. 2007 happened, which was brutal and painful.
Right.
All the way across the board. It ended up being laid off of that organization due to just resources all across the region were drying up. And I had an opportunity to get to know during the course of my time in Fayetteville a guy named Ed Clifford, who is a friend and a mentor. He was the executive director of the Chamber up here in Bentonville. He's now the executive director of the Jones Center for Families in Springdale. Mm-hmm. And he invited me up to start having conversations because I didn't have a job and I was looking around. And we started getting to know Bentonville and the people in Bentonville and sort of the vision that they had started in 2004 around that master plan. we had already gotten wind, of course, of Crystal Bridges, and people didn't know necessarily what that was going to mean.
Right.
That little gallery down in the valley somewhere.
Yes.
It was sort of like this whisper in the wind of this thing. And Bentonville from the rest of Northwest Arkansas really was sort of like, what? Bentonville? And so, going up there, it was an incredible opportunity to kind of set a pace and a tone for things. There was an amazing team of folks up here. And so quickly sort of integrated into this team of people that said, hey, we got to move the needle. We got to move the needle quick. And I like moving quick. I like getting things done. I like knocking it out. And so that was the goal. And so I worked as the executive director for downtown Bentonville, kind of overseeing about 1,700 acres of the city, which is what the downtown master plan had as downtown. Working with an amazing group from city staff to the chamber to the Convention and Visitors Bureau to private developers to with other nonprofits in the area, and the results were nothing short of incredible. And because it was a team effort, because there's so many people pushing that boulder at the same time, we were able to accomplish an awful lot. And my wife was also able to start Trike Theater for Youth, which is a professional theater company up here, and now she's connected to the Kennedy Center and traveling all over the place. So I think the bottom line is that, we worked really hard, but we met amazing people who were able to, facilitate and help us with what we were trying to accomplish, and in turn we helped them. It really was a very collaborative environment, and we credit our network and our humans that surrounded us to what we're doing right now in our current success.
Yeah. Would you ever imagine, I guess, when you first came here that you would have the kind of experiences and success that you've had in this area where you almost have bookends on the Fayetteville side with your experiences down there in Theater Squared. Yep. And then for those that don't know, Trike is up here in Bentonville, right?
That's correct.
And so you've bookended with that, and then now you were part of the Downtown Bentonville revival, and now you've started your own company.
That's correct.
And so, would you have thought when you first got here that was even possible in Northwest Arkansas?
Well, not really. When we first started the work in Fayetteville, we were talking about the arts and how creative corridors and things like that could play a major role. I had been working very closely with the Seattle Arts Commission and the King County Arts Commission in Seattle on a lot of how do you merge arts and economic development. Food, of course, played a major role. Seeing the impact of that and trying to bring some of that conversation into Northwest Arkansas. It was at its very early stages when we first moved here, but it caught on quickly. We were able to create in Fayetteville in 2007 the state's first municipally formed arts district. We changed state law to be able to facilitate improvement districts to support the arts. And then even up here in Bentonville, we were able to move the needle on the cottage industry law, which allowed entrepreneurs to be able to create and craft goods that then they could sell at the farmers market. The collaboration around the farmers markets all across Northwest Arkansas. After I left, I was also lucky enough to play a role in the Rogers Downtown Master Plan, the Springdale Downtown Master Plan, the Salem Springs Downtown Master Plan. And so having an incredibly unique sort of perspective of being a part of a lot of these downtown conversations, just continued to be in awe of the collective wisdom of this region. Yeah. And now that I'm doing work, not just across the state, but across the country, I think that what is occurring specifically in the heartland of America, the solutions and the answers of small town America, they're trying to put together conversations with a tube sock $4 and a chicken sandwich. They're just trying to work it. They're MacGyvering the heck out of things.
Right.
Incredible work is happening all across the United States. And so now I get this really cool perspective of being in these towns all over America and working with some amazing people.
Wow. That's awesome. And it seems like, and again, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the Velocity Group. You are the founder and CEO of that organization that Correct. I guess started in 2014.
2014 when I left
it's
downtown
based
Bentonville.
Here in Bentonville.
Yes, sir. Well, it's based in my backpack.
Based in your backpack.
So wherever
you
am,
are
that's
is
where
Velocity Group is. Right.
Correct.
So and you guys do some really interesting. So you offer some really interesting services. Part of which is that you get to speak a little bit about this experience, which I think really does help others trying to replicate what we've experienced here, the renaissance that's taking place in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, so my speaker series is one of the things I enjoy. I've taught K-4 through college before, and so teaching and being part of that learning environment, crafting learning environments is a passion. So my ability to be able to go to other communities and speak about not just Bentonville, it's not to replicate, it's to say, hey, here are some lessons learned. I have experiences that perhaps other people don't, and they have experiences I don't. And so we bring all those things in a room and we learn together. I learn from a lot of the people that are in the audiences as well, ask questions, they're very dynamic. But Velocity Group is really what I call sort of an experience design company. Okay. Whether it's in communities, whether it's in corporations, whether it's in businesses, you have to craft compelling experiences that turn people on.
Yeah.
Right. To both engage tourists, to get people to move to your community, to get people to feel ownership, skin in the game. Right. If your citizens don't feel connected to a place, they will leave.
Right.
And the whole point is you want to attract talent. You have to move beyond the idea of jobs into the process of how do you attract the best and brightest. And that's creating choose your own adventure communities. And there are models, there are examples, there are things. And so really Velocity Group was created to help communities understand what is their DNA of place.
Yeah.
And then I have a process called the Theater of Cool, which is the activation. How do you launch it? How do you look at that using theater as a metaphor? But there's economy behind it, there's design behind it, there's consumer science behind it, and then there's base communications. If you don't communicate your story well, your value is in your story.
Yeah.
And if other people are telling your story, you've given away one of your greatest values, and that is your own narrative.
Has anybody ever accused you of sounding a little like Simon Sinek?
Or perhaps Simon Sinek sounds a little bit like me.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just saying.
Right, yeah.
No. There's some, of course, once again, being informed by readers from everywhere, from Marcus Aurelius to Simon Sinek.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were telling me earlier about how much of a prolific podcast listener you are.
Right.
You get inspired by, I get inspired by my kids, I get inspired by my wife, my friends, writers, and they all inform this process.
Yeah. No, I say that, and I certainly say that with all rights due to you, because I think this idea of helping organizations and firms, that for that matter, in the public and private sector, to understand their DNA.
Yeah.
And why they do the things that they do, and really what moves them, is really what ultimately allows organizations to be successful. Period. End of story.
That's right. And Starting with Your Why, of course, is an incredibly powerful book, and philosophy.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I also look for in that model is not just the why, the how, and the what, but most of my work is in the who.
Yeah.
Who's at the table? Who's missing? Whose voice isn't there?
Right.
Why aren't they there? What's
Right.
distancing themselves from feeling a part of the conversation? And how do we be very intentional in broadening that dialogue to make sure that the place offers the broadest sense of who you are as a city, not based on 5 people meeting in a back room somewhere making all the decisions.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you have to make decisions and you have to move on. You can't, outsource absolutely every idea. That's why we have elected officials, and that's why we have those things from an efficiency standpoint.
Yeah.
But the baseline vision isn't just about a document. If people don't feel ownership in that vision, you're not going to move it forward. So the who in that model is really, really, really important.
Yeah.
Right?
Are you finding that this Northwest Arkansas now in 2019 for that matter, the who has expanded?
Oh, exponentially.
Okay.
And that's the thing I think about the value creation of the groundwork that so many people have done here in Northwest Arkansas when it was still sort of the frontier.
Yeah.
You could still be eaten by bears.
Right.
Back in the day, it was crazy, but we always stand on the shoulders of giants. It's period. No matter what you do, how you do it, there's always people that came before that set it up, which means, and my hope is that the work that I've been on has actually helped pay the way for a whole new group of people to come in and pick that up and keep moving forward. That's momentum.
Yeah.
And that's what you want in a community.
Yeah.
There's been an incredible history of people all the way going back to the first peoples here in Northwest Arkansas, how they treated the land, where they set up shop, how they did it, how the space has grown. A lot of stub toes, as there always are in regions.
Right.
We can learn a lot from those historic stub toes. But I think the collective wisdom has expanded exponentially. There are people here bringing ideas to Northwest Arkansas that were once again mere whispers.
Yeah.
But we needed more people to keep pushing that rock. And that's one of the great things about having a dynamic region that is inviting to talent. We know what we know, i.e. we want to craft a beautiful region with a lot of different opportunities. Those areas that I think are a little bit more advanced go, well, we know what we don't know, right? And so how do we grow into that? But in community development and great places, that unknown is the sexiest part of what we do, man.
Right.
And that's the great thing about people coming in. We don't know necessarily the skill sets that are coming in to Northwest Arkansas every single day. How collectively can we create platforms to them to sort of become their best possible selves?
Exactly.
And that's an ongoing. Placemaking is an ing. It's an active verb. That's why it's called placemaking, not place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You are in constant activity and action. And those 36.5 people or whatever that move in here to Northwest Arkansas every single day.
Right.
What are we going to be in a year?
Yeah.
To imagine that level of collective wisdom here in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
It's astounding.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right. And that adds fuel to the fire for me, at least, which is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because I felt like this was another medium, another channel to share that information. Because I don't know. I mean, everybody gets their information differently nowadays.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for us to kind of be everywhere, if you can, if you will, with regard to disseminating all of the great things that are happening here in Northwest Arkansas. So.
Curiosity, a region or a city that is constantly curious about who its people are, those ideas, those are the ones that remain competitive for the best possible talent because they're constantly mining their own citizenry for ideas and actions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I heard you give a quote. You said food is a metaphor for creating community.
Yes.
And I would love for you to just unpack that a little bit. Now I'm a little hungry right now, but no, I when I heard that I was like, wow, that is a great quote.
Yeah.
But I'd love for you to share that.
So food, everybody has to eat.
Yeah.
Not everybody has to buy a red sweater. Right? And so when you talk about the basic universal, oh look, there's birds
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. We're being attacked.
That's
Run,
right,
everyone,
that's right,
run.
yeah.
So when you talk about food and everybody has to eat, because it becomes a universal experience, right? Everybody has a relationship with food. Sometimes it's healthy, sometimes it's not, but everybody has a relationship with food. So it becomes a universal language. When you recognize that food is identity, food is culture, food is social, food is justice, food can be a weapon, it can be a tool. Food is a very powerful prop to who we are as human beings.
Right.
And it's very difficult to be angry with someone once you've broken bread with them.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know. Yeah, absolutely.
Unless the food is real crap.
Yeah.
And you're the one that cooked it and gave someone botulism. Then maybe you can be a little upset. Maybe. But I think the point is one of the reasons why I love food, and we kind of looked at food as a significant pillar to the identity of Bentonville, and now have talked about that amongst a lot of people here in Northwest Arkansas from a regional perspective. Just food is an incredibly powerful tool. And once you understand sort of that history, because it's collaborative, and right now the food being informed now, we have an Indian population, we have a Hmong population, we have a Cambodian, we have Thai, Marshallese, then you look at the African American experience, and you look at the various Scottish and Irish that are coming in here.
Right.
All of those things are mixing into what is Arkansas food.
Right.
And then you start breaking that down in what is food from Northwest Arkansas and or the Ozarks.
Right.
What rich, beautiful questions can be asked in how people integrated with each other, how people engaged with each other. That is the foundation of community.
Yeah.
And if you're able to unpack that through a universal experience of food, we can start a conversation and then get into those harder discussions later on down the line. Because if you sometimes start with those hard discussions, you turn people off, it doesn't make any sense. food is a universal language.
Yeah.
You start with that, and then you can grow from there.
I like that. That will preach every day.
That's right.
That will preach
Yes.
every day.
And a good piece of pizza,
Yeah.
good night. That is the UN of food. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, well, man, so you've had a chance to see the resurgence and the rebirth in Fayetteville. You've had a chance to see the resurgence and rebirth of the downtown area. What could you say it was a rebirth? I mean, was downtown Bentonville ever a destination back in the day, or
Not of course, not in the way that it is right now. And,
Yeah.
and in Northwest Arkansas, I think seeing the shift, Fayetteville was it. It was the end-all, be-all
That's
for the
right.
experience
That's
design.
right. That's
And-
all I ever knew about this
That's
area.
right. And
Yeah.
even when we lived in Fayetteville, it was that. But I think with actions like that were undertaken by the Northwest Arkansas Council in that regional conversation, the burden of being everything is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Right. It is a sort of atlas with the globe on your shoulders.
Right.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
And so for Fayetteville, I think it is an incredible experience, an incredible city. But it was somewhat carrying some of that experience design standpoint from Northwest Arkansas. So when the other cities started coming into their own with this new experience, whether it's Bentonville, and of course with Crystal Bridges, which added fuel to a fire that we could have never almost imagined.
Yeah,
it just,
exactly.
blew our minds. But then you had this reinsurgence of who is Rogers and what is Rogers and who is Springdale and who is Siloam Springs. And those identities now circle around the concept of Northwest Arkansas. And we are made stronger through that identity. But it's also, and I strongly believe this, co-opetition. That idea is saying competition keeps us on our toes. It's
Right,
good to have
right.
a little Friday Night Lights.
Exactly,
It's good.
exactly.
But cooperation is the thing that's going to sustain us.
Yeah.
And so to have a little bit of that edge, a little bit of the ability for the chambers to kind of poke each other a little bit,
Right.
or the mayors to kind of have that friendly banter and that competition, constantly means that we have to ask what's next.
Right.
What's next? What's next?
Right.
And that is, I think, in the water here in Northwest Arkansas. There's a level of hustle that I think is derived from 150 years of not having a single industry, right? And so you kind of had to have a hustle to be able to make a living here in Northwest Arkansas. Eventually, that filters into the water.
Yeah.
That gets into the soil.
Yeah.
And so there's a level of hustle here that I think is just going to be constant. So competition is in our blood, but so is collaboration,
Yeah.
and so is cooperation. And I think those 2 1-2 punches are something that makes this region incredibly unique in other parts of the country.
Yeah. So if I was doing a startup and I was considering places to relocate, you would suggest that someone take a real long, hard look at Northwest Arkansas.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Northwest Arkansas, the other thing about this, and once again, this is not hyperbole because
Yeah.
I've seen this again and again and again, it is a meritocracy. You come in and obviously you have to work hard. A meritocracy is about your hustle.
Yeah.
So you got to hustle, and things just don't come naturally easy here because it's a smaller community, and you've got to work on things, and you've got to get your networks out there. And yes, there are some folks that potentially may need some additional support, and that support's out there.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong; it's not easy for everybody the same, across the board. But there is a meritocracy in Northwest Arkansas that if you're willing to come here, if you're willing to put in the time, you're willing to get out there and make something happen, it is not guaranteed. But I'll tell you, there's an enormous potential here. Because you go to a bigger city, if you moved to New York and you left New York, so what?
Yeah.
They don't care.
It's like, what? Oh, you've been gone? I didn't
Yeah,
realize
what?
it.
Yeah,
So-
you moved here? We didn't realize, and you left, we didn't even realize,
Right,
right?
right.
You come here to Northwest Arkansas, and we're still a small enough community and a small enough region
Yeah.
where you start making waves and people pay attention. And when you
Exactly.
go away,
Yeah.
people notice.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
imagine if you're an entrepreneur, and by the way, you don't have to be young. Some of the best times to start up a business are Gen X age, by the way, our
Yes,
40s.
yes.
We will rule the world.
That's right,
Well, we
that's
already
right.
do, but pay no attention to the people behind the curtain.
Yeah,
The generation
exactly.
behind the curtain,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But you're in these big cities, and you're kind of wondering, how do I crack that nut? How do I get in there? How do I do whatever? Moving to Northwest Arkansas and testing out your hand, what do you got to lose?
Yeah.
come here, fine. You can always move somewhere else, but you're going to have access to people and a collective wisdom here that you may not have in some of those bigger cities.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that. I kind of feel that as I've stepped out and to do my own thing, and then I've done this podcast and I've interacted with people, I'm kind of blown away at the openness that I've been received with regard to just telling people what I'm doing, and they're all saying, "Oh, that's a great idea. I'd love to share," or "Oh, I know somebody that you should talk to," and that's kind of how I connected with you.
Yeah.
And I think that more than anything else, where sometimes you get to places where everything's a competition, and it's just like, well, no, I can't let you get an inch, because if you get an inch, then I don't have anything.
That's right,
and that's unfortunate. But I just think that I just see tons of opportunity here in Northwest Arkansas.
There's a difference between asset-based thinking and deficit-based thinking.
Right.
Deficit-based thinking is if someone else wins, I lose.
Right.
Right. That's that deficit. What don't we have?
Right.
And that's a huge gap. If I were to look at myself and say, what don't I have? Okay, I'm not built, amazing. I could probably lose a few pounds. I could sit and dwell in that.
Right.
Or we can base on our assets. What do we have, and how do we grow from there, and how do we build off the platforms of things that we have? And that is very collaborative. That's very much like our assets are our people. My next door neighbor is an asset. How do I start working with them versus, boy, I want a bigger house. I got to destroy his house so I can expand my house.
Exactly.
That is very destructive thinking. And I think that the other part to this, which also is unique to Northwest Arkansas, and once again, this isn't just Northwest Arkansas. I'm in other parts of the country that have the same thing. It's the yes and mentality.
Yeah.
You're in theater improv, and a bunch of people are on stage, and someone goes, "Hey man, this is a couch," and someone goes, "No, it's not." Well, guess what? That's a really short scene.
Exactly.
And people in the audience get really angry, and they're like, I paid $20 for this. This is crap,
Yeah.
A yes and mentality means no matter how ridiculous the next step is, you're constantly moving the conversation forward.
Right.
And I think Northwest Arkansas has a definitive yes and mentality, which is part of its competitive advantage.
Yeah. And I think also with the yes and piece of it, because I do talk about this in some of the trainings that I do, is it also means that you're listening.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
I mean, you want an audience that's listening and paying attention. So,
that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, wow, this is great. So you've got, I think we've kind of covered a number of the things that you guys are doing, and I don't know how you've caught a breath in this time. I mean, it's been 2003 to 2019. I mean, that's 16 years, but you've kind of put your thumbprint on this. What's next for Daniel Hintz?
Right. Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm lucky enough to be asked to play whatever role I possibly can in supporting other communities on their own journey. What a great platform to kind of jump out from Northwest Arkansas, and I continue to care deeply about this region. But I've been on both coasts. I've done projects in Mexico. I've done projects all over the place. And as I said, the discovery of the who is the best part of the journey, man. It's amazing what's happening out there. Right now, I'm working hard on a project called the Catalytic Opportunity Zone Fund, which is utilizing the Opportunity Zone legislation that came out of the latest tax roll that actually allows folks to invest capital gains into specific census tract areas. Okay. And there's some significant and historic tax benefits for doing so. But what it does is incentivizes investments in areas that are haven't had the level of investment that it needs.
Yeah.
It's a tool. It is not the answer, but it is a tool. And so what's really great about myself, not myself, but the partners, what's really great about the partners and the Catalytic Opportunity Zone Fund and working with them is that we're bringing a wide variety of point of views to the table, from global fund developments to architecture to operations to placemaking, and kind of lumping that all into a fund that is looking to invest in communities that are at a positive inflection point, ones that are actually having that question of who am I, which is a great time to invest in a community.
Absolutely.
Looking for projects then within that community that make financial sense, right? But then becoming the acupuncture for unlocking the nascent value of that vision. So sure, it's a good business decision, but it also has a mission. Then uncovering those unique local developers that are able to have the wherewithal to deliver on that mission. So they become great local partners who unequivocally understand their communities far better than we do, but so rely on their vision. And then we also created a new hospitality company called Front Porch Hospitality. And the whole point is recognizing some of these communities don't have the deepest bench when it comes to operators, to concepts. And so how do we craft experiences, restaurants and hotels or bars, those types of things that can help make those neighborhoods and those communities more competitive for attention, but do it in a way that is a value add, not competitively, but once again saying, hey, what is missing? How can we be a part of contributing to that missing piece? And so it actually moves this collective vision forward. We're in the midst of looking for projects. We have projects identified all over the state. We're doing our fundraise right now. But that's one of the big projects that I know not only will it have economic sense, but our goal is to strengthen the concept of what is Arkansas and who is Arkansas, and once again making that investment in the who just creates a more robust environment for new talent to come in, because they're like, oh, I want to be a part of that.
Right.
So that's one of the new concepts that I'm working on with a wide variety of partners, and I'm very excited and very honored to be a part of that team.
Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. I mean, Daniel Hintz is doing some amazing things here in Northwest Arkansas, and certainly a good person to know for sure. I want to close out with a couple of things. I mean, there's so many things I could ask you. There's just you've done so much, and this is a really great conversation. Why don't you tell the people just a little bit about your favorites here in Northwest Arkansas? And I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I don't want you to make any of your chef friends mad at you for saying one versus the other. But just. If I had to put a gun to your head and force you to take me to the best place that you like to eat at on a regular basis here in Northwest Arkansas, where would it be?
Oh man, I'm telling you, there are multiple markets within me. It all depends. The level of culinary talent. I mean, if you start looking for some of the best taquerias in the South, I mean, you got them scattered across Northwest Arkansas. You've got classically trained chefs across Northwest Arkansas. If you want a really elevated James Beard level experience,
right.
You've got barbecue and backhouse rooms that you walk into that you're just like, what am I putting them on? This is incredible, and a plate of food that costs $6.
Yeah.
So I think we have a collection of culinary experiences across Northwest Arkansas. The ability to explore is the best part.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And to uncover this talent. I think people come into Northwest Arkansas who don't get quite the Arkansas brand, and then how that translates here to Arkansas.
Yeah.
Surprise is one of our greatest allies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so people come in, they fly in, they have whatever they have in their head, and then all of a sudden you're like, go here, check this out. Go here, do this. So, I mean, Thai food, the farmers markets and the produce that's coming in from a wide variety of people who are farming Northwest Arkansas, where a lot of this comes from.
Yeah.
What grows out of the ground should inform your local food community, and it does.
Yeah.
And there are chefs out there. There's
a big farm to table.
There's a huge farm to table.
Yeah.
But check this out. Northwest Arkansas has been doing farm to table before New York ever discovered it. I'm just saying, because it was a necessity.
Right.
When you walked out your back door.
Exactly.
So the recipes and the relationship to food here in Northwest Arkansas and the state of Arkansas is incredible. And it has been something that I have loved to discover. And I've just sort of gotten to the top of the iceberg. And I'm looking forward to keep eating my way through this state.
There you go. Well, spoken like a true ambassador of the people. No, it's hard because you don't want to piss anybody off, and you want people to know that you really care about them. So I think that was a very diplomatic response. So,
thank you. And it's truthful, man. It's
truthful. No. It's all good. I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you. I know people always are asking me, where's a good place to go? And every day I turn up, I'm learning about a new place. I'm like, I didn't know that. And I'm thinking it's brand new. And I'm like, no, it's been around for a while.
Well, and I know you want to close, but I'll tell you, we're sitting here at the Bike Rack Brewing Company, but the level of beer the quality of the beer.
They
talk
make all
about a
their
tour.
beer.
They do.
Yeah.
But there are breweries all over Northwest Arkansas,
I know.
including Arkansas's only cidery with Black Apple Cider in
Black
downtown.
Apple Cider, yeah.
So I can speak about that one because there is no one else, right? So I can say
yes.
Black Apple Cidery is a great
absolutely.
location. But
Yeah.
really, the quality of beers here in Northwest Arkansas continue to grow. So it's an exciting time to be a part of this community.
I know. Yeah, people in Asheville, North Carolina, look out because you just never know what will happen.
We're coming at you.
Yes,
We're coming at you.
Exactly. Well, Daniel, I really, really appreciate you taking time to be here with us today on the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. Sure. This was really, really great. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. Well, they can certainly email me, daniel@dnaofplace.com.
I love that domain. That's a really nice domain.
And so that's a great way to reach out. And please feel free to do so.
Okay, yeah, and I'll put all your information in the show notes, and so that everybody can know how to reach out to Daniel and learn more about the Velocity Group and everything that he's doing, and all the places that we talked about will be in those show notes. So you guys can certainly avail yourselves of that at IamNorthwestArkansas.com. Very simple to get to, and just please let us know what you thought about this episode and give us some feedback. But Daniel, thank you so much.
Thank you
again for being on this. I really appreciate it. I know you didn't know me from Adam, but you got together and you practice what you preach, so I really do appreciate that.
No worries,
and
man.
Hopefully I can return the favor at some point in time in the near future.
Sounds great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.